Okay, today's lesson is going to be on volume of a cone. How much, if I'm going to use my rice again, how much rice is going to take to fill up this cone. But we're going to go back to what we did in the last video and talk about the volume of a cylinder, because this cone and this cylinder have a special relationship, and it's easy to remember the formula for these if you see this relationship. So, reminder that we did the area of the base of this circle and multiplied by the height to find the volume of this cylinder. And we did this one, it had a 4-inch diameter. The circle had a 4-inch diameter, and this cone also has a 4-inch diameter. Even though this one doesn't have a height that goes all the way up, it comes to a point here, or an apex, it still has the same base, which is a circle, just like the base of this cylinder. So the way that we use these formulas together, we know that this one was pi times the radius squared for the area of the circle times the height for the cylinder. So to figure out what the relationship is, I want you to think for a second, how many times do you think I would need to fill up this cone and pour it into this cylinder to fill up the cylinder? How many of these do you think it would take to fill up this? Sometimes people think 2 times. So let's try that and see if we think it's 2 times. And that would mean this cone has half the volume of that cylinder. Using some more of this dirty rice that I use at school. It's been spilled all over the floor. All right, there's one. There's 2. I'm not making these perfectly level, but you can see that 2 do a pretty good job, but it's going to take another one to fill it all the way. So it's going to take 3 of these cones, and again, I'm not making it perfectly level full, but it's going to take 3 of these cones to fill up this cylinder. Now they have the same base. So what do you think that would mean we would need to do to our formula? This was area of the circle, pi times radius squared times the height. So this is going to be 1/3 of that. So the formula is the same, except we're going to add in one thing right here at the beginning. 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. So this one is very easy. We can do it just like we did the cylinder. Let's say that we have the same exact circular base that we had before. We're going to use 3.14 for pi. The radius of that cone and that cylinder were both 4 inches. So we're going to, 2 inches. The diameter was 4 inches, so the radius is 2 inches. I'm glad I made that mistake, so maybe I'll keep you from making that mistake or help you avoid it. If the diameter is 4 inches, the radius is 2 inches squared, and then the height of it, let's measure this height. I measured the height of the rice on the other one because the volume is the amount that's in the container. But I'm going to do the entire height of this, and this cone and this cylinder have the same height as well. That's important also. It can't be 1/3 of it if it doesn't have the same base and the same height. The height of this is also 4 inches. So if it's full, that means the capacity has a 4-inch height, but the volume also has a 4-inch height because it's filled to capacity. So the height then is 4 inches. Now let's check back over this. Again, if you don't write it down, these are not going to come out so well. Trying to do them in your head is not a good idea. So let's make sure we've used the formula and we've plugged everything in. The 1/3 just comes down here. Pi, in this case, I'm using 3.14 for pi. The radius is 2 inches and it's been squared. And I actually should have put the square outside there because the 2 is going to be squared and the inches is going to be squared. And the height is 4 inches. So now I'm going to multiply all that. This is the point at which it's great to use your calculator. I usually save the 1/3 until last. I just divide by 3, but you can do it because if you're using a scientific calculator, you can use the ABC key or the fraction key and put the 1/3 in. However you prefer to do it, because multiplication is commutative. You can do it in any direction. Just make sure that you do them all. but I am gonna do the squared first because I do exponents first. So I'm gonna make sure that I've done 1/3 times 3.14 times 4 square inches times 4 inches. Now I like to do these first and then divide by 3. That's just the way I like to do it. 3.14 times 4 times 4. So I have 50.24. I still haven't used the 1/3. 50.24, and that's inches squared times inches, which is inches cubed. So this is what I would have gotten if it was a cylinder, but it's a cone, so it's 1/3 of that. So now I'm going to take that value and divide it by 3, and I'm going to get a number that goes on forever. It's a repeating decimal. It's going to be 16.74, and the 6 is going to repeat. So I'm going to round this one to the nearest tenth. You need to read the directions of your problems to do these correctly. It will tell you where to round. I'm going to round this one to the nearest tenth, and it's going to be 16.7 cubic inches.